Nor is an ugly, disgusting weakling who is so talentless that every single school in his town has kicked him out for being a world-class noob. After facing years of rejection, this loser turns to the mountains to live the life of a socially inept virgin. However, when he returns to his homeland after 14 years, he finds that all those no-nut Novembers and loneliness have turned him into a certified Giga Chad. But before this, Nor was just a little farmer boy living in a house with his mom, spending his days taking care of the farm animals and being a good little maid. However, his mom is really not feeling too well and tells him in her final words that she wants him to go out and live the life he dreamt about. That night, she sadly passes away, and he buries her right next to his dad, putting flowers on her grave and starting to play Farmville all alone. One night he pulls a book off of a tall bookshelf and remembers when he was little when his father read him the book and when his naive little ass dreamt of becoming an adventurer. People who have got the most massive nuts of all the nuts in the universe, who constantly stand up to danger and are always there when their friends need them the most. That very night, he remembers his mom's final words and decides that enough is enough, and he gets ready to leave his sad little life in the morning to go to the capital to become an adventurer. Before he leaves, his low-level IQ brain comes up with the idea of putting a massive bale of hay in the animal pen in hopes that they will eat it slowly until he comes back one day. He says his goodbyes on his parents' graves and sets off towards the capital. He immediately goes to try to find the Adventurer Guild, and he finds it with no problem. Inside the guild, however, the guild master sees that Nor is about 3'5" and shoos him away like the little idiot he is. Seeing that the dude is pretty uninterested, Nor plays the sympathy card and says that his parents aren't alive anymore. And the dude immediately feels sorry for him and offers to help. He explains that to be an adventurer, he has to get good and go to the Royal Training School to get some skills before he can register as an adventurer. Nor first decides to go to the sorting school, but after 3 months, all he has learned is to parry, so the master of the school kicks his incompetent ass out. Despite being a worthless loser, Nor ain't quitting just yet, so he goes straight to warrior school to test his physical abilities. After a few months, he gets kicked out from this one too, as he only made very little progress. Nor still doesn't quit and starts thinking that he might be about to become Legolas, and he goes to the hunter school to learn archery. However, the same thing happens. The woman running the school tells him that he is as talented as a blob of dog shit, and kicks him out after a few months as he kept breaking the bows. Having learned that he is pretty much useless at every single physical skill, including being a thief, he tries to see if magic is where his true skills lie. The magician says that it is actually worrying how much he sucks at magic and says that it could be a new world record. Even the cleric says that he is super talentless and can only heal small wounds. After this horrible year, he goes to the guild and tries to become an adventurer, but the master tells him that he is definitely going to call the Guinness World Record book because there has never existed a child so untalented in every single aspect. Nor gets pretty disappointed and straight up leaves the capital and goes home. He decides that even though he has learned only the basic shitty skills from every school, he will just start training all of those like crazy in hopes that he eventually develops some new skills. After only 3 years, he can already parry 100 swords but is still completely unable to use any new skill at all. He becomes so strong that the wooden swords just keep breaking in his hands, and he decides to train even harder. After 10 more years, he is able to parry 1,000 wooden swords at the same time. He leaves his pathetic little farm again, hoping that he has become powerful enough to join the adventurers after all these years, despite the fact that he hasn't learned any new skills at all. He reaches the guild, and the girl working at the guild pretty much tells him that he is cooked and still can't register. All of a sudden, the dude running the guild comes to him and recognizes him, immediately going for a drink with Nor as he sees that he is still useless when it comes to any skills. The master explains to Nor that there are 5 tiers of adventurers, with E rank being the worst tier, and he is too worthless even to achieve this rank. However, the dude tells Nor that there is a rank even worse than E rank, so bad that not even true adventurers know about it. It's called F rank, and it is practically more of a flex if you aren't an adventurer at all than it is to be in such a shit rank. Any person in F rank can't accept any cool missions that involve danger or unaliving and can only accept random beta tasks around town like cleaning, carrying heavy things and all that. To the guild master's surprise, Nor absolutely goes crazy for the idea, immediately signs his new adventurer card, and starts doing his random tasks during the day as well as training at sunset. The tasks he does involve cosplaying Gordon Ramsay, carrying heavy things, cleaning, and rescuing cats, and he is super happy that he is finally gonna be useful to people after all. One day, after cleaning a gutter for an old lady he always cleans the gutter for, Noor leaves to carry some heavy load at a local mine. One day all of a sudden, Noor hears a girl crying for help, and like a true Giga Chad, he runs straight into the mine where the scream is coming from. Inside, he finds a massive minotaur terrorizing the knights, who are trying their hardest to protect the poor girl that was crying. The knights get their shit handed to them as the minotaur absolutely obliterates them into pieces. The poor girl is looking into the minotaur's eyes, accepting her fate, and just then Noor gathers his balls and starts throwing rocks at him, grabbing a sword so he can use his only good skill, and he starts parrying the minotaur around. As the minotaur starts running towards the girl, Noor puts his body in front of her, parrying the minotaur one last time and breaking the sword into pieces. He remembers his father's words from when he told him how true adventurers always put their lives on the line, as he gathers all of his force into the hilt of the broken blade in his hands, managing to parry the minotaur one last time as his axe flies out of his hands, slicing his massive ugly cow head clean off. After this, the girl tries to talk to Noor, and he straight up just leaves, thinking that his job is done, happy that he survived. The girl is left bamboozled with knights coming in to see if she's okay. Meanwhile, Noor is walking around town, and his dumb bat thinks that he faced a random cow and didn't even realize that he struck down a massive minotaur, thinking that he still has a lot of training left to do. After a while, as the soldiers are examining the minotaur's ugly rotting body, the girl, Lady Linenberg, is sitting down, still in the cave, thinking about how Noor saved her sorry ass. Just then, another girl named Inez waltzes into the cave and starts apologizing her butt off to Lady Linenberg because she is her protector, and she miserably failed at her job. Lady Linenberg reassures her that it's all Gucci because she wants to become an adventurer, and it would be pretty crap if she were an adventurer who couldn't protect herself on her own. A few hours later, a very royal-looking dude Rain talks to the head of the Kingsguard about how the Minotaur even came to the cave. They conclude that the Minotaur is a demon creature, and that someone most likely sent it there, given the fact that the crystal its disgusting self dropped was of very high purity. After they examined the crystal and the crest, they deduced that it came from the magic empire of Doritas. After provoking them for so long, Doritas has finally decided to start his grand plan, which begins with an attempt to assassinate Lady Lin, the princess. Rain, her brother, realizes that the only thing Doritas has ever wanted is their kingdom's special resource, the weird-ass relic found in the Dungeon of the Lost. Rain starts thinking about what kind of beast and Giga Chad this man who saved Lin must be. The next morning, Noor casually comes back to the guild as if nothing happened, and the master is surprised that Noor's low IQ-ridden head is still sitting on his shoulders. Noor, however, practically has no idea what is going on, and the master has to explain to him that a demon was at the cave last night, and that even he, who used to be an orang, would have trouble fighting the demon. Noor basically says that he is lucky not to have seen it because his dumbass still believes that he fought a big cow. The guild master explains that it was defeated by a mystery person in the end, and Noor starts daydreaming about how much aura this person must have, not knowing that it is actually him. Just then, Lady Lin comes up behind Noor, happy that she finally found him after stalking him for a long time. It turns out that she used some sort of tracking jutsu on him to be able to find him, and with this information, Noor concludes that her class must be a thief. Lin says that she majors in magic but that she is so sick at everything that she practically has a good level of skills in all the other classes, the exact opposite of Noor, who sucks massive cucumbers in all of the classes. Lin, however, doesn't know this and treats him like he must be the most powerful dude on the planet. People around him start connecting the dots about Noor being the one who defeated the Minotaur, so he and Lin go outside and use some of Lin's weird jutsus, which makes it so that people around them can neither see nor hear them, which is basically the perfect stalker jutsu. She apologizes to him for jumping and stalking him but says that she really wants to thank him for saving her life. Noor, however, starts bigging her up instead because his impeccable naive humbleness knows no bounds. Poor Lin tries to insist that she should give him some sort of a reward, but Noor's Sigma ass keeps refusing. Lin pushes forward, even offering to talk to her father about giving him some territory, but Noor doesn't even know that her father is the king, so he refuses yet again. Lin practically starts crying like a bitch, saying how he has to accept something as a gift from her, which ends up triggering some PTSD from when Nor was young and was rejected from cleric school, so he finally ends up agreeing to meet her father. When they reach the gates, Nor sees that Lin must be filthy rich because of her massive mansion. Even after she introduces herself to him, Nor in his pea-sized brain still can't comprehend that she might be of royal lineage, and instead just concludes that she must be one of the rich aristocrats or something. Anise greets them halfway to the throne room and is very sus of this seemingly random dude going in to talk to the king. However, Lin says that Nor is the one who saved her, and Anise starts getting a bit more relaxed. Nor, on the other hand, is as relaxed as they come, thinking that she must be a random maid. Just in front of the throne room, they run into the king of cockiness, Gilbert, who thinks his spear is the longest from anyone in the room and starts acting all tough in front of Nor. Anise tells him to back off but invites him to join them, fearing that Nor might do something pretty sus to either the princess or the king, not realizing that he is nowhere smarter than a mosquito and that he still hasn't realized that this is the royal family. As they enter the throne room, the king is talking to his son Rain about how he has predicted that Doritas will inevitably strike because he refused to give them control over their Dungeon of the Lost, and the king Doritas lost his shit and vowed he would have his stupid revenge. Once in front of the king, everyone drops to their knees except one singular Giga Chad who remains standing, even saying that his peasant self doesn't know any manners and that he is likely to do something considered offensive. The king starts laughing uncontrollably and says that it is all chill, after which they shake hands, which single-handedly raises the testosterone in the room by 200%. He starts thanking him for saving his daughter and saying that he has to accept some sort of gift. As per usual, Nor straight up starts refusing any gifts, saying that he doesn't need either land, treasury, or anything like that. Rain can't believe that the king is offering half of his kingdom to this incel, but the king sees something very interesting in Nor. The king goes behind the throne, takes out a massive black sword, and gives it to Nor. Rain starts shitting his pants, saying that such an important relic mustn't go to such dirty hands as Nor's. The king says that it is all Gucci and gives the sword over to Nor, who immediately starts yapping about not being able to accept it if it's really expensive and worthy like the true poor-minded peasant he is. Luckily, the king is onto him, and he starts making a story about how it is just a random sword he happened to come across during one of his journeys. Only now does this worm with no concept of self-worth finally accept the gift. He gives the sword a swing single-handedly and makes a massive gust of wind spread across the entire room. The king then starts laughing about how strong he is and gives him the task of training Lin to become strong, not realizing that Nor is one dude who simply has no idea how strong he truly is. Nor says that she should simply decide for herself and finally leaves the throne room, leaving everyone else in a state of pure shock. As he walks down the corridor towards the gates, his eyes fix on the sword. Suddenly, it hits him that he's an irreparable idiot workaholic as he realizes the sword is the perfect width for cleaning gutters. Anise stops this mega weird thinking session, and she kneels to him, apologizing for not behaving properly with him even though his dumbass is the one who saved the princess. He finally realizes that she isn't a maid but is actually the vice captain of the warrior corps, and is also known as the Divine Shield. Like a real 5-year-old, Nor is only now starting to get impressed with her because she has revealed to have a cool nickname. Anise says that she is the one who is meant to protect Lin, and given that it was his useless existence that protected her in the first place, she will also protect him. However, she gets super pissed about how he treated the king with no manners and tells him that she will cut his balls off if he continues to behave this way. When he finally says his name to her, she has a little PTSD attack just by hearing the name, and then she leaves. Just as he is finally about to exit the premises, he comes across the cocky loser Gilbert, who wants Nor to finally show him what he can really do. They start walking together towards Gilbert's sparring room, as he wants to make his ego grow even more by defeating Nor in a sparring match. Gilbert explains that he is famous in the capital, and Nor happily accepts the match, given that it's been ages since he has sparred with anyone. They get in the ring, Gilbert with a massive wooden spear, and Nor with his wooden sword. As usual, Nor starts severely overestimating his opponent and underestimating himself. Gilbert tries to smack him with the spear, but Nor just straight up dodges every single attack. Nor, not even realizing how much of a giga chat he is, pauses the sparring and tells Gilbert to go at him with full power. Gilbert's little ego starts crumbling, and he starts trying to use his full force against him, getting more and more angry at every single one of Nor's dodges. Nor continues making his poor little ego go down as he tells him to go even faster, and Gilbert loses all common sense and launches his most powerful attack against Nor, which Nor dodges with no problem, but yields straight after, thinking that this must have been a warning from Gilbert about him being much more powerful than him, not realizing in the slightest that he could have easily smoked his ass had the sparring session continued. As Nor leaves, all of the NPC spectators in the room start commenting about how Dragrave, Gilbert's special move, is impossible to be dodged, and that it is a miracle Nor kept his head on. As Gilbert sits in the corner, he starts remembering how he came to the capital in the first place. He used to travel the world searching for strong dudes, given that he was super cocky and talented, but could never find anyone who could come even close to him. In a random village, after wiping the floor with all their warriors, the head of the village offers him to go back to the capital to join the army, given that he is so epic and strong. After reaching the capital, however, all he ever did was smash monsters up because his arrogant, flamboyant ego is pissed that he can't find a human who can match his power level. Even after getting the title of Divine Spear, he is still not satisfied and is constantly bored, thinking that everyone is way below him. The only one he finds strong is the Sorting Master, who he talks to one day about how he is super bored of constantly being the greatest dude around. Now, as he is standing in front of wooden swords in the room, he is utterly and completely perplexed about Nor and the massive amount of aura around him. He couldn't read him in the throne room and even felt that he couldn't dislike the dude, but found something just impossibly weird about him. He can't get over the fact that even after losing his mind and launching his most powerful attack that would unalive anyone instantly, Nor dodged it with ease and even straight up quit. Feeling like a used shriveled up sock under a bed, Gilbert keeps thinking about the moment Nor said that he can't wait to see him again. After examining the sparring room floor, he sees some massive cracks that were made with the weight of Nor's massive balls. After finally reaching his street, Nor's Delulu ass starts thinking about how he barely dodged the attack and that Gilbert must have gone easy on him. However, he still doesn't respect him enough to remember his name properly, thinking that it must be something that sounds like a bird. The next morning, Nor finds that the new sword is absolutely perfect for cleaning the gutters and that it simply does not want to chip no matter how hard he hacks it around. Nor starts feeling incredibly useless because his job carrying heavy shit got suspended because of the Minotaur incident, so he starts thinking about other good jobs he could be doing with the sword instead. However, given he has the brain of a 5-year-old, instead of realizing he has the potential to smash up monsters, he thinks that he could perhaps use the sword as a roe, grill, or maybe a spatula for taking pizza out of ovens. Luckily, this extremely sad state of mind is interrupted by Lynn, who approaches him and asks him to accept her as his sidekick. Nor, of course, given that he has less self-esteem than a wet sandwich, refuses, thinking that he simply has nothing to teach her and that there is no way her powerful skills could be of any use to a useless bastard like him. However, Lynn ain't going to give up that easily, and she starts showcasing all of the epic skills she has. Even after all of this, Nor still refuses as he is now even more convinced that there is nothing that he could possibly teach her. Lynn, on the other hand, thinks that he refuses to teach her because her magic is too shit and is really sad about that, but she adamantly continues to insist on Nor training her. Nor figures out that the only way to show her that there is literally nothing worthy in him is to show her his disgustingly sad little fireball, which was the only thing he learned to do in the magic school all those years ago. He lights up his spell, and Lynn is left completely flabbergasted. She remembers talking to Oakham, the wizardy old-looking dude in charge of the magic school, and how he told her that even a shit skill like a tiny flame could be trained into growing. But the only idiots with enough time to waste on something like that are old dudes like him. Lynn thinks about how she never got her tiny flame to grow any further, no matter how hard she tried. However, as she was looking into Nor's tiny flame, she realized that it was pretty much bigger than average, and that Nor managed to train his tiny flame to such an extent that it simply became massive. She figures out that the best thing she can do for herself and her bloodline is to get Nor to teach her. Later that day, she goes to Nor and tells him that she will continue stalking and following him around until he finally accepts her as his sidekick and even starts calling him Daddy Nor. I mean Instructor Nor. The very next day, Rain is sitting in his office and is thinking about what prompted his father to give the kingdom's most important relic, made from never-before-seen materials, the black unbreakable blade, to such a random dude like Nor. Even more so, the biggest mystery was how a blade that is indestructible could be in such a horrible condition. Meanwhile, Noor and Lin are chilling in the town, grabbing a bite to eat from a random street vendor, and Noor tells her that after that, they'll be going to the guild to get a quest. When they reach the guild master can't believe his eyes when he sees that such a massive loser like Noor is hanging out with the princess. Noor tries to explain but is kinda lost for words, so the guild master moves on to giving them a new quest so he can get out of this situation. Given that Lin is a B rank, they can go together as a party to smack up some goblins. Upon hearing this, fighting-starved Noor completely loses his shit, but given that he is the Guinness World Record holder for the most moral person ever, he starts feeling guilty about using her rank. He starts feeling bad but quickly realizes that smoking goblins is more important than feeling bad and leaves the guild immediately after the guildmaster explains where they need to go and that they need to get the goblin ears as proof so they can't get the fat cash when they return. When they reach the forest of beasts, they find a whole lot of forest and almost no beasts. Because the scariest looking creature Noor has seen up to that point was a cat, he asks Lin to give him a quick rundown of what goblins are like. She says that while they're normally pretty chill when they run out of food, they tend to start gnawing on some humans, which is why their population needs to constantly be cut down by adventurers. Noor realizes that not only is Lin strong, she is also smart as fuck. As they delve deeper into the forest, the fog starts getting thicker and thicker, and they still aren't able to find any goblins. All of a sudden, Lin feels a presence deeper into the forest, and they start going around trying to figure out what she is. Out of nowhere, they stop because Lin senses something in the air, but they still don't see anything around them. That's when they see half of a goblin hanging in midair, and Lin decides to cast an uncovering spell which uncovers a massive 12 feet goblin eating a smaller goblin. Lin tries to tell Noor that this is a super rare special goblin that is artificially created called the Goblin Emperor, but Noor's profoundly idiotic being concludes that this must be what a regular goblin looks like since he'd never seen them before and prepares for battle. The goblin grabs an entire tree and starts roaring and fighting them, and while this is happening, poor Lin is scared shitless and standing completely frozen. Noor concludes that even though adventurers usually say that goblins are the beta cucks of the monster universe, Lin must still be pretty inexperienced, and without even knowing, brings her out of her terrorized state by saying that this massive disgusting freak is just a goblin, and that there isn't any time to be scared. Lin wakes up from her trance, and they start fighting the massive hunk of green meat. Her Delulu ass starts thinking that Noor must have predicted this and that is exactly why he accepted this quest, wanting to take out this freak of nature once and for all. Noor starts parrying all of the goblin's attacks and Lin supports him with all kinds of magic. The goblin, however, is a master evader and just dodges every single attack while throwing whole tree trunks at them. Once they finally manage to get a nick on him, he just straight up turns on cheat mode and starts healing straight away, which Lin concludes must be because of the massive gem on his forehead. The ugly goblin keeps testing Noor to see how much he can parry at the same time, and they finally manage to come up with a plan. Noor asks Lin to cast a massive wind spell on his back, so he can fly into the goblin at super speed and smash him square in the head. Noor breaks straight through the goblin's unwavering barrage of tree trunks and smashes the gem on his head clean off. The goblin becomes ooga booga and starts throwing trunks around like an idiot, and Noor feels sorry for him and asks Lin to take him out in a painless way. Her idiot ass thinks that this means burning him like a T-bone steak, which she does, and they quickly leave the forests. Meanwhile, the news of the Goblin Emperor has already reached the palace, and Rain is in his headquarters acting all mysterious, trying to figure out what kind of weird things are going on here and why a bunch of massive Mana Stone-controlled monsters are appearing everywhere. He still believes this to be the work of the Magic Empire. However, the head of the thief school tells him that this is likely the demon's heart of the holy theocracy of Mithra, which means that the Magic Empire is quickly gathering allies who are more than willing to turn their two-faced little backs on the Kingdom of Clays. After a journey of 1,000,000 steps, Noor and Lin finally arrive back at the guild to claim their reward, and the guild master starts feeling like a proud parent seeing their dumb child finally succeed in life, seeing Noor finally beating a goblin's butt. He says that they only beat it thanks to Lin, which she of course denies because no one can be better than her instructor daddy Noor. Noor starts yapping about the gem on the goblin's head, and Lin gets hyped about the fact that Noor still thinks it was just a gem and tells the guildmaster that it was just a goblin, despite the fact that he is pretty confused about the gem. Finally, he asks them about the proof of payment, and they realize that they forgot to take the goblin's ear before turning it into a hamburger. That evening, Rain is in his headquarters, looking at all of the reports of weird-ass activities going on in the kingdom, and he finds that there is a whole bunch of people dealing with the problems of weird monsters. He orders the thief order to send out a bunch of search parties to the places to get more info on what is going on. And just then, Rain finally realizes that the country is practically on the brink of an all-out war and siege by the Magic Empire. Meanwhile, Nor and Lin are finally having their well-deserved snack break after the guildmaster ends up giving them the small cash for the goblin out of pity despite the fact that they were 1 ear short. Nor is looking at Lin, thinking about how long she plans to stay with him, and it seems that on top of all the powers she already has, she also has the power to read minds since she immediately tells him that she will go home for the night. However, just as they say their goodbyes and Nor thanks her for helping him with the goblin, Rain pops up out of nowhere and asks both of them to come to the castle in the morning. He says that Nor is now the sole person he can rely on, and he agrees to come. In the morning, they accept the task Rain had in mind, which Nor apparently only ended up accepting because his poor self had never seen a carriage before. As they are strolling around the countryside, they start talking, and Lin immediately starts apologizing in her brother's stead for asking him to come along on this quest out of the blue. Nor, of course, has literally no problem with this quest as the mission is basically to ride along and go to the holy theocracy of Mira and chillax for a while, given that nothing happens on the way there. To protect them, Rain also asked Anise to come along, who is also apparently an expert carriage rider. However, Anise has been given a secret mission by Rain, and she is to stay with Lin in the holy theocracy of Mithra in case all shit breaks loose in the capital. After riding around for a while, they stop at a nearby river for a little pee break, and Anise starts talking to Nor. Anise gets worried that Nor will have to be carried by her, and Nor says that he will try to protect himself to the best of his abilities. She finally explains that she is meant to be the divine shield, and she summons her divine shield spell, which Nor the creep immediately starts touching up on for some reason. Nor thinks about how Lin told him that Gilbert, the cocky spear dude he fought with, is one of the most powerful dudes around and that he defeated a dragon on his own, and he figures out that Anise must be mega strong too. He also thinks about how useless he is, given that he struggled with a single goblin. Anise enters a flashback arc and starts remembering how she first found out she had special powers in the orphanage. Being really impressed, all the heads of the schools look at her and deduce that she is so mega powerful that she will either manifest the power of a divine sword that can unalive anything or a divine shield powerful enough to protect anyone. They all start training and teaching her to use all of their powers so she becomes mega OP. She also remembers that she had heard Nor's name before when Dandalg, the head of the warrior school, protected her from a massive ant in battle, and said that he wished that Nor was still around. She starts feeling all sorts of jelly about Nor, given that her daddy Dandalg praised him and held him so highly, but quickly gets post-jelly clarity and decides that she should still act as the shield and protect both Lin and Nor. While he is looking out of the window, Nor notices a path in the wheat fields they are passing by, and Lin immediately stops the carriage and uses the uncover spell, which reveals a massive froggy dragon and a kid next to it. At the same time, in the capital, the guards burst into the king's quarters and tell him that many monsters have appeared all over the kingdom at the same time. The king and his son Rain start discussing what they should do as all of the school leaders, called the Sovereign Six, are separated, fighting a bunch of monsters all across the town. Rain tells the king that Lin is safe, but he doesn't know that she is, just at the same time, on the brink of being attacked by a massive froggy dragon. Meanwhile, prior to them being uncovered by Lin's spell, the kid and the dragon are just walking around, all chillaxed, with the kid constantly repeating that he is supposed to unalive them all. Once uncovered, Lin and Anise and Nor can't quite comprehend what such a horrible monster is doing in the middle of a random wheat field. Nor, however, immediately goes towards the dragon with his massive black sword and parries the shit out of it just as it was about to start gnawing on the poor kid. While this is happening, Lin and Anise look at the kid and conclude that the kid must be one of the demon folk, demi-humans gifted with the ability to control monsters. She remembers that 200 years ago, the demon folk got together and almost destroyed the holy theocracy of Mithra, which led to them almost being extinct and there being a massive flaming hatred between them and humans. They think that he must have been on a mission to destroy their kingdom and got so shocked by the uncover spell that he lost control of the dragon. Anise and her jealous ass are shocked that Noor jumped in to protect the kid with no questions asked. And while Lin is super eager to jump into battle to help him, Anise stops her from doing that. Noor, however, is doing what he does best and is parrying the froggy dragon out of existence. But the froggy dragon gets a quick power up and throws insane poison breath at poor Noor, which he immediately parries away from the kid, but straight into himself. This turns out to be a really bad move because he propels the poison straight into his lungs, and he loses all strength. Poor Lin tries to go to protect him, but Anise stops her because she is more important to her than the loser Noor. As the froggy dragon blasts them, Lin notices some unalive birds on the floor and thinks that Noor must be completely dead. However, out of nowhere, a dragon claw smashes into the shield in front of Anise and Lin. And as the fog clears, they see that Noor is still holding on and parrying all of the dragon's attacks, with black goo leaking out of all of the places. He finally loses all strength and falls flat on his back, thinking that it is all over. A flashback reveals that the poor kid controlling the dragon was actually a slave, held in a dungeon amongst many other sad hungry kids much like him. The people holding them there would practically feed them some horrible dog food. And the kid remembers how his race used only to control livestock when a few idiots started controlling monsters and unaliving people, which led to their whole race being utterly despised by all the regular people. On top of all of that, he constantly got beaten up like a punching bag by the guard out of pure amusement anytime he asked a question. On top of it all, he was able to read people's thoughts, and everyone absolutely detested him. Despite all of this bad shit that has constantly been happening to him, he never wished for anything bad to happen to anyone because that is just the type of good dude he is. One day, the disgusting ugly guard gives him the task of taking the froggy dragon into the capital, promising that this will help all of his kind and the whole country. On top of that, he even promises that this would lead to him being fed, taken care of, and not beaten up like an old rug every single day. However, if he were to refuse, all of the torment he has been through would end up getting worse. He accepts, and it is revealed that at the moment where he lost control of the monster after Lin used her uncover spell, he wished to get unalived, and hoped that he would be born into a new life with no torment, and where he could eat some bussin' food. That was the exact moment the epitome of a good dude, Noor, popped in and started protecting him. When the frog spews poison, Noor not only stands in front of the boy, taking most of the punch, but he also uses his low heal spell to make sure the boy is alright. As Noor is lying on his back, about to go unconscious, he remembers the time after his parents died when he had to take care of himself. His dumb ass went into the woods and picked all plants he could find, making a stew, which turns out is the most poisonous stew in the world as he put a really poisonous plant in it, leading him to collapse and start gushing blood. Somehow, he manages to crawl his way to the water source, and he even gathers enough strength to get up and go to the sword so he can finish his training routine. He starts healing himself with his low heal and miraculously wakes up on his bed in his house, all healed up. The next day, he goes back into the forest to gather some more plants, but this time he decides to actually use his brain and think about what plants might be poisonous. As he is looking at a plant, a random snake pops up out of nowhere and seems to have very weird preferences and goes straight for Noor's butt, biting him immediately. Given that the snake is super venomous, Noor collapses instantly but somehow manages to heal himself back up again. Because he didn't die, he figured out that the logical next step would be to roast the snake and eat it. After this, his weird ass gets hooked on poisonous food, and he starts eating anything poisonous that he can find. Sometimes he would collapse, but over the years, this caused him to build up a tolerance to pretty much every single poison known to man, which is exactly why he gets the f*** up, brushes the poison off, and continues fighting the froggy dragon in hopes he might be able to roast it and eat it by the end of the battle. He continues parrying the frog, breaking its claws every time they come into contact with his epic black sword. The kid is looking at him and is practically salivating, thinking about how he could become his new daddy. Seeing that the frog has now grown to the size of Jabba the Hutt, Noor concludes that it must be gathering all of its poison or a final attack, and he parries it straight away, causing the frog to implode like a pinata on a kid's birthday. He goes to talk to the kid, who tells him that he was actually the one leading the frog into town, which Noor, given his bottom tier IQ, thinks must be because the frog was a valuable cooking ingredient. He immediately starts apologizing to the kid for messing up the delivery, and saying that he will definitely pay him back. The kid says that it's all Gucci and sees that Noor is just too naive and dumb to understand anything properly. After the kid tells him that he can control monsters, Nor tells him that this is an epic skill, and the kid can't believe that someone finally sees it as a god-given power instead of a curse. The kid, named Rollo, tells Nor that he is one of the demon folk, and as Nor lacks any sort of common education, he has no idea what that is and just tells Rollo that he shouldn't let anything idiots say get to him and that he has a sick power which can be really useful for helping people. Rollo promptly starts crying when he learns that he can actually do good instead of just being used for bad things. And only now does selfish Anise and poor Lin run towards him. Lin tries to think of how he could have survived this and remembers that Sane, the head of the clerics, once said to her that if one were to hone their body and spirit to the level of perfection, he would be able to develop the skill of being able to immediately heal their body of any bad shit happening to it. She even remembers Sane saying that this is such a difficult task that even Sane took over 40 years to do it, and the Giga Chad Nor was able to do it in just 15. Anise and Lin get mega sus of Rollo, but Nor insists that they bring the poor kid with them. They try asking him about who hired him to do such a heinous act, and he says that he has no idea who was really behind everything. Lin starts feeling guilty about the fact that she judged the kid, and they start using all of their brains in an effort to figure out what they should do with the kid because demon folk are strictly forbidden in the holy theocracy of Mithra. And just at that moment, a dollar store Gojo appears, very surprised that Nor survived the battle with the froggy dragon. Nor immediately asks him if he was the one who ordered him to deliver the monster to the town, and the B-Tech Gojo tells him that he is just a hired hand there to bring Rollo back because he failed his mission. He tries to attack the kid, but Nor parries him like the legend he is. Budget Gojo doesn't even see the kid as a person and only sees him as a way to make fat cash, and he gets into a fight with Nor while giving him an expo dump about why he is even there in the first place. Gojo knockoff gets mega cocky and thinks that he will be able to just lop Nor's head off with no problem and get it over with, not knowing that Nor is probably the most OP dude in the entire kingdom. The Gojo wannabe is super fast and strikes at Nor with his tiny little blades, but not nearly fast enough so that Nor isn't able to fight him off. In fact, his blades are so weak compared to Nor's big black sword that they keep breaking, no matter what material they are made out of. As usual, Lin is observing from spectator mode, and Anise is acting as a shield. Anise tells Lin that this Gojo wannabe is actually called Deadman Zadu, one of the strongest adventurers who went rogue because he severely lacked a moral compass and would unalive anyone if it paid well. The dude's power level is so insanely high that he straight up destroyed an entire country's army and brutally unalived the royal family. While the fight continues, Zadu figures out that he pretty much almost has no daggers left as they break every single time they come into contact with Nor's sick-ass sword. He very quickly realizes that Nor is not the type of dude you wanna mess around with, so he decides to use the jutsu he used when he unalived the kingdom's army, which basically makes a billion blades in the sky which are all about to rain at poor Rollo. Of course, Nor is there to parry the attacks, but this time it's much more difficult because the pain in the ass Zadu keeps summoning the blades over and over again, and Nor even has to pull off an Uruka special and take some in his back. Anise finally stops being a dick and decides to join in and help him as she sees that the situation is getting very spicy real fast. She makes a massive shield barrier to protect Nor, and Nor tells her that she is a lifesaver because he was quickly running out of space on his body for the blades. Anise says that they will have to try to beat him as soon as possible and says that she will focus on defense, begging Nor to try and take him out. Nor agrees and comes up with the plan to use his trained right hand and throws the froggy dragon's fangs at the swords, breaking them into pieces over and over again. Lin is standing around, flabbergasted at the sheer power of her daddy instructor Nor. Out of nowhere, Zadu spawns in front of Anise and is just about to stab her in the eye when Nor just parries him away, breaking a supposedly unbreakable blade. Zadu realizes that this is gonna be much more difficult than he had previously imagined, so he picks his shit up and leaves, but not before attacking them a final time and telling them that there will be a celebration in the capital, implying that a crap ton of monsters the Magic Empire had spawned must have done a pretty decent job in causing a bunch of problems. As he leaves, they decide to go back to the capital instead of the holy theocracy of Mithra. Just as Rollo hears this, he starts trembling because he has heard that the biggest dragon out of all of them is headed straight toward the capital to wreak some absolute havoc. Anise has absolutely no personality of her own and can only do what she is ordered to do. But Lin manages to persuade her into abandoning the mission and going back to the capital to try to protect the people from the massive shit show that is about to ensue. They also decide to bring Rollo along for the mission because he believes that whoever is bringing the monsters there must also be demon folk, so he thinks he can somehow be of help. Meanwhile, hunger-crazed Nor is super sad that he didn't manage to get a bite out of the poison frog. And Lin is thinking about how Nor is such a good-hearted dude while she and Inez were acting like heartless cold bitches. While all of this is happening, Rain goes on to investigate what is happening around town. And one of the soldiers says that practically all of the monsters have been defeated and the people have been evacuated. But Rain is pretty worried that the enemy will strike hard now that their forces are scattered all across the kingdom. Looking into the sky, Rain notices something very sus and casts an uncover spell, uncovering a dragon so massive that he would raise the entire city if he were to just land on top of it, known as the ominous Dragon of Calamity. After a while, Nor, Inez, Lin, and Rollo finally get to the vicinity of the capital, and they see the big Chungus Dragon of Calamity flying very angrily towards the town. And Nor remembers a moment when his dad told him about a dragon that was so pissed that he almost destroyed the entire continent once. The poor people of the capital look above them and see a massive dragon completely cover the entire sky. And a very scared Rain tells the soldier next to him that this dragon has been sleeping for only 150 years and starts pooping his prince pants just thinking about how strong the magic empire must be if they manage to awake it from its slumber and use it for their good. He orders the soldier to get everyone out of the city immediately. While this is happening, the king is chilling in his headquarters, looking straight at the dragon through his windows, gathering his massive Kingsley balls to go out and fight. Meanwhile, Lin is looking at the city with a pair of binoculars, still about 1 billion miles away, hoping that her dad and brother will just bolt out of there in time. Nor, however, and all of his 3 brain cells look at the dragon and admire how massive it is. He comes up with the idea to try and run to the town with the help of Lin's wind boost to do his best to save it since the town has done so much for him. Lin thinks that it is too late to save the king, but the goody two-shoes naive Nor and his everlasting optimism manage to snap her out of it and get her to agree with his plan. As he is going out of his HQ to battle with the dragon, the king remembers how he was a massive Giga Chad, and he straight up refused to give his kingdom up to Doritas all that time ago, and how he vowed to show the king how wrong he was. The dragon finally lands and starts destroying everything around in the town by just existing. Although he is worried about his daughter, the king gets it together, gets his sword, and is finally ready to do his best and fight this dragon to get his kingdom out of this shithole they are in. At the same time, Inez and Lin have basically made a massive funnel around Nor so the spell can be even stronger so that he can reach the city in time. They launch him, and Nor starts changing aggregate states and going at the speed of light towards the town. At the same time as he starts heading towards the city, the Dragon of Calamity is about to unleash the deadliest attack in the universe, which he almost raised the whole world using the dragon's breath right into the king's face. Just as the king was about to brace for the attack, out of nowhere, Nor popped up and parried the dragon's breath into the air, deflecting it from the town. The dragon is legit completely flabbergasted that someone managed to deflect its attack and is looking around to see what is going on. Now the dragon and Nor are looking directly eye to eye, and the dragon is extremely pissed at him, doing his best to smash him with his tail like a little bug. Inez, Rollo, and Lin finally arrive on their horses just in time to see Nor fighting the dragon, although they are slightly sidetracked by flying debris, which knocks them clean off their horse. Out of nowhere, a bunch of goblin emperors come up and engage in combat, and Lin remembers Nor's goofy act and motivates Inez by saying that they are just a bunch of goblins, and they take them out pretty easily because the legend Rollo stopped them right in their tracks using his controlling powers. Meanwhile, Nor is still doing his best parrying the living shit out of all of the dragon's attacks, and the dragon is completely flabbergasted by the fact that he can legit do nothing to Nor's sword, so he just flies up into the sky and launches another tailed beast bomb at the city, which Nor, of course, parries into the sky just as easily as the last one. Everyone looks on in absolute awe as the dragon comes down at Nor with all his might, and Rollo tells everyone that the dragon is absolutely pissed because it sees Nor as his enemy, but Nor legit doesn't give a crap. Not knowing what else to do, the dragon straight up launches one final attack at Nor and he slices off one of the dragon's claws clean off. The dragon finally remembers the good old saying of if you can't beat them, join them, and just submits to Nor. Nor, of course, given his low IQ, can't comprehend that this could happen and that a loser like him can become a dragon slayer, and he just sits down in front of the dragon, with Inez, Rollo, and Lynn finally reaching him. He tells them that everything is chill and thanks Rollo for his help because he thinks he was the one who controlled the dragon into relaxing and stopping. He asks Rollo for a favor, to send the dragon back to where he came from instead of unaliving him because he just ain't about unaliving wildlife unless they're in any way poisonous. Rollo says that he'll ask politely, and Nor bigs him up, saying that everything is chill and that nobody is scared of him. Rollo goes up to the dragon and asks him to go back, but the dragon says that he will only listen to what Master Daddy Nor tells him to do, so he tells Rollo to tell the dragon to fly away and never hurt any humans again. The dragon agrees, roars, and just straight up flies away, no questions asked. Out of nowhere, a massive laser beam shoots the dragon down in no time. It turns out that Doritas was waiting outside of town in his shiny golden little armor with a massive army and his technological magic lasers that was just waiting for the dragon to finish the job. And thinking that the dragon has destroyed the entire kingdom, shot him down to not have to deal with him later. He says that it was a well-known beast tamer who helped them tame the dragon and bend his will to their own. He remembers how they were planning the whole thing in his throne room and how one of his best soldiers rebelled at him and said that it wasn't a wise idea to attack such a massive kingdom like the Clay's kingdom. And Doritas promptly gives him a kick in the face as punishment for even thinking of such an idea. Inez, Nor, Lynn, and Rollo go towards the dragon, and they see him lying almost dead on the floor. On a nearby cliff, they see a million Magic Empire soldiers just waiting to launch their attack. At the same time, King Doritas is looking at them with his magic binoculars and saying that the time of legends is over and the time of absolute pussies like him is about to begin. After this, he orders his soldiers to fire the Brionac cannon at them to annihilate them in a second, thinking that even Inez, the divine shield, won't be able to block such a powerful weapon. However, what he doesn't know is that right there on the hill is Nor as well, the most OP dude on the planet. And he parries the laser beam away with absolutely no problem. Seeing that the laser beam did absolutely nothing, they launch some more mini beams at them, which Inez manages to block out completely with her divine shield. One of the soldiers informs King Doritas that he should move to the back for safety, and like the real bitch he is, he moves to the back, out of harm's way. Meanwhile, Nor finally thinks of running away and is about to present this idea to the gang when Lynn tells him that she knows exactly what his plan is and immediately launches him towards the army with her wind spell. While in midair, he starts parrying all the beams going at them, and he runs straight into the army at super speed and starts knocking out every single shield and sword off of every single soldier in the army, over and over again, while the sissy King Doritas watches from a nearby hill in confusion. However, the king isn't left alone for long, and Nor goes after him very soon while the soldiers do their best to evade the swords that are falling from the sky. Not only this, but Nor also goes after all of the magic machines and breaks them into pieces with no problem. After that, he finally approaches the king, and the king realizes that he is the same dude that he saw 53 miles away using his binoculars, and he simply can't believe that he is now here in front of him. The king starts tripping nuts that Nor is looking at him with a psycho look and literally pisses his pants, even though Nor was really just doing his best to look as least menacing as possible. As Nor gets closer, the king realizes that his blade is the Black Blade of Clays, the most powerful relic in the kingdom, one so powerful that even the King of Clays had to wield it with 2 hands. Doritas realizes that enough is enough, so he gets on his horse and starts running away for dear life. As the king starts running away, Nor does his best to keep standing up but has completely wasted his energy and even coughs up some red liquid. At just that moment, Gilbert and all of the Sovereign Six appear and start helping him, wiping the floor with the soldiers around him. The main swordsman, Sig, appears and starts smacking the soldiers up but doesn't recognize poor old Nor, even though he, on the other hand, is salivating just looking at how awesome of a swordsman he is. At the same time, the old magician dude Oaken and the cleric dude Sane deal with enemies in their own weird magic ways. They trap a whole bunch of soldiers so they can get some more intel. Nor looks around and recognizes all of his old teachers, and is over the moon that he sees them again. The archer girl Mayan recognizes him, and the thief dude Karu does as well. Lynn heals Nor up, and Nor practically feels like a new person, although he is mega hungry. Realizing that King Doritas has escaped, the Sovereign Six immediately get together and try to think of a way to catch him. Nor finally grows a brain and gets an idea, leading them towards the Dragon of Calamity, which Sane starts healing so that they can use him to reach the king in time and stop him from going behind his fortress walls. While he's healing the dragon up, Sane tells Oken who Nor is, and Nor immediately tells him that his old ass hasn't changed at all since the last time he saw him and that he is pretty much surprised that he is still alive. Rollo starts talking to the dragon, and they conclude that he is super pissed and wants revenge on the idiot king and the entire magic empire. They all hop on the dragon's back, and they go to catch up to the pussy king, although Nor is on the brink of pooping his pants since he is deadly afraid of heights. Karu also agrees to go with them so he can conceal the dragon's massive nuts. I mean wings as they fly toward the magic empire. At that moment, King Clays and Rain arrive there as well, and Inez starts apologizing to him like crazy for disobeying his orders. Rain basically tells her that it's all Gucci since his orders were stupid anyway. On the other hand, Nor reassures the king that they'll be fine, and they fly away on the dragon. After this, Sig and the warrior master Dundark talk to each other about whether they should have said something to Nor and why they haven't seen him in a long time. Sig says that Nor didn't even need them after all this time, and that while they were busy being stuck-up little idiots, Nor managed to raise himself much better than they ever could have raised him. Meanwhile, the gang on the dragon think about if the king could have possibly reached the town by now, and just then, they see him nearing his empire's tower defenses. Thinking about what to do, they figure out that the best thing for them is to let Inez destroy the living crap out of the entire area since it could easily be used as an escape route, which she promptly does. And while she is doing that, Lin thinks about how things must be getting real serious since Nor is just sitting in complete silence. But she has no idea that he is actually just passed out from being so terrified of flying. King Doritas finally reaches his throne room and starts talking to his subordinates about what they should do. And just then, he sees the Dragon of Calamity heading straight towards his throne room, and he immediately craps his pants so the P from earlier can have some company, realizing that they must have somehow resurrected him. Even so, he realizes that someone would likely have to be controlling the dragon and immediately suspects that it could be those pesky demon folk. So he asks his subordinates where the beast tamer dude who helped them tame the dragon in the first place could be, and they tell him that he has unfortunately left the chat. Given that the king is super pissed and that he can't really do anything, the loser he is, he just starts beating his subordinates out of pure incompetence. He tells the same dude that he previously kicked in the face to think of a plan and orders the other dudes to activate a new weapon in its test stages to try and smash the dragon, even if there is a high possibility that the weapon will end up destroying half of their capital. They aim the gun at the dragon, pulling all of the power from the entire town into the weapon, and they shoot it towards the dragon. The king almost gets a heart attack when he sees that Nor has easily parried his attack, and for the situation to be even better, the laser beam was set to target mana, which means that it ended up targeting all of the mana furnaces in the city, destroying all of these mana factories, leaving the king all alone with all of his subordinates running away, and leaving him alone to deal with this horrid situation he put himself and the whole kingdom in. After Nor parries the attack with no problem, he realizes he is now flying through the air very fast with nothing soft to land on, so he starts going through the walls sword first, and breaks straight through the palace into the throne room. Just as King Doritas was getting surrounded by a bunch of his soldiers who were planning on unaliving him and surrendering to the Clay's kingdom, led by the dude he kept beating up and who he had just sent to think of a plan to solve this entire mess, Nor comes flying in through the roof and starts defending the king, thinking that it's unfair for a bunch of soldiers to gang up on a worthless weak old man. They think that Nor must be a paid bodyguard, and they try to fight him, but he just ends up parrying every attack, and in an attempt to get Doritas out of harm's way, he keeps smashing him into the wall and floor, probably just causing him more damage than he would have endured by the soldiers' hands. Nor turns his roast side on and says that since the king is so old he would just die of old age anyway and that they should leave him be. Nor's dumbass really has no idea how to deal with this situation, and luckily Rain, Sane, Lin, and the thief dude pop in and say that they agree with Nor and that Doritas should be put under special treatment. Under special treatment, Sane means getting him to the brink of death, and then healing him back up so he can experience every single ounce of pain over again. Rain also gives the king a quick rundown of exactly how many people died in the siege of the Clay's kingdom, before telling him that he will be forgiven, but only after he endures a bunch of pain. Meanwhile, Nor starts feeling really guilty for destroying all those mana furnaces with his parry, but quickly gets over it when Lin tells him that the mana furnaces are places so overpopulated by mana that people can't even go into them. Just then, Rain comes to them and explains that the war is finally over, and Nor gets really confused since it only just started and doesn't understand why they all didn't just talk it out instead of many people getting hurt. Rain says that the throne will be inherited by the king's grandson, who is only 10, so there will be a council ruling in his stead. The main soldier dude who planned to unalive Doritas earlier, named Randius, introduces himself to Nor and says that he will do anything he must to make amends for attacking him earlier. They get all friendly with each other, and it is explained that he will be a part of that council ruling in the king's stead. After that, the whole Clay gang gets on the dragon and goes home, with poor Nor begging them to fly just a little closer to the ground because he really doesn't like flying. Very soon, they reach home, and Rain and Nor immediately go to talk to the king. The king starts apologizing his ass off for making his poor son Rain do all the negotiating, and starts thanking Nor like crazy for saving their butts in battle. Nor, like always, is the absolute epitome of humbleness, refusing any reward. The king tells him that it would simply set a bad example if he were not to be rewarded again. So Nor once again proves how incredibly good-hearted he is, and the only thing he asks for is for Rollo to be accepted into the kingdom, put into a good house, good family, and taken care of like the true G he is. The king realizes that this will probably put them in a really shitty relationship with the holy theocracy of Mithra, but he really isn't too shaken up by this, given the fact that it is really likely that Mithra sided with the Magic Empire anyways. That night, Rollo wakes up in his new beautiful crib and goes to have dinner since he now lives with Anise. He just stares at the food blankly for a while, and when Anise tells him that he can get his grub on, he straight up starts crying since one of his biggest wishes was to eat some bussin' food, which he does, grabbing absolutely everything on the table and stuffing it into his little mouth, all while still crying. The next morning, Nor finally goes back to the guild to help clean the place up from all debris, and he picks up the guild sign, remembering the time he saw it for the first time 15 years ago. After the dude in the guild told him about the schools, young Nor went and immediately joined the sword school, and it is evident that he was by far one of the best, most talented people there, despite the fact that he was not even close to developing any new skills. He was so sick that the best swordsman in the kingdom, Sig, who was leading the school, said that Nor could pretty much easily surpass him. At one point, he shows Nor one of his fastest techniques by casting a bunch of leaves into the air, and slicing every single one of them at super speed. Young naive Nor is in awe and can't believe how fast it was, with Sig being pretty much not surprised at all. But all of a sudden, Nor explains his exact moves, which means that Nor was able to see him clearly even though he moved in super speed, prompting the swordmaster to think that Nor is even more talented than he had previously thought. After 3 months, however, he is fully perplexed because Nor still hasn't developed a new skill other than parry, and even though he sees insane potential in Nor, has to let him go as he simply can't stay any longer without having learned any new skills, but is sure that he will become successful in a different school. After this, poor Nor joins the warrior guild. There, he starts getting a bit stronger with training, and after 2 months, while going through a horrible test that consists of letting massive rocks fall on top of you, an accident happens, and a way bigger rock starts falling on top of Nor. The main dude in the warrior guild, Dundarg, jumps in to protect him but sees that Nor hasn't budged an inch, proving that he has got the nuts of steel. After another month, Dundalk tells him to leave since he has not managed to learn any skills other than slightly improving his physical abilities, thinking that the boy is so talented that he will for sure be amazing at a different skill. Still determined to become sick at something, Nor joins the archer school, and the girl in charge of it, Mayan, is pulling a shikamaru, feeling mega bored, so she just gives Nor a practically impossible task, which is to throw a rock 70 million meters away into a stick that is hanging from a tree, and Nor manages to do it with no problem, many times in a row, causing the girl's jaw to drop so hard she might have had to call a forklift to lift it back up. After a while, he still only throws rocks since Mayan knows that he will just be in trouble if she lets him use a bow. Even so, she finally budges and gives him a bow, which Nor immediately proceeds to break in half because of his insane strength level. After breaking about 1 billion bows, she even gives him her special bow, and Nor, of course, snaps it in half promptly. After about 2 months of training, he is still throwing rocks at the same shield that now has a gaping hole in the middle, and even tells Mayan that he got so good at throwing rocks in the first place by unaliving very special rainbow birds, and the girl is flabbergasted again, given that she knows that those birds are so fast that even an experienced bowman would struggle with them. After another month, however, useless Noor has still not managed to learn a single skill, and she just tells him to leave, though she, too, is sure that he will find another skill his insanely talented ass will suit better. Given that he ain't about that quitting life, Noor goes on and joins the Thief Guild. The master of the Thief Guild, Karu, immediately recognizes that he has talent, and he even manages to clear a super crazy trap-ridden dungeon, but he does it like a battering ram, not caring for the lives of anyone around him, instead of being super sneaky like a thief is supposed to. After this leads to him impressing Karu but also getting expelled, Noor goes to try to become a mage, but is so useless that he can only create a small tiny flame. Oken kinda tells him that he is super useless but gets absolutely flabbergasted when he sees that Noor is double wielding the tiny flames, a skill so hard to learn that it took Oken years to learn it. However, he still can't produce more than a tiny flame, so he gets his ass expelled from this school too. In the end, the only option he has left is to become a cleric, so he tries to apply to cleric school, but the dude straight up rejects him. Noor, however, is not willing to give up his last chance at becoming an adventurer, so he waits out in the snow until Sane accepts him as his student. After a while, Sane sees that poor old Noor has collapsed at the entrance from the cold and lack of food, and he finally accepts him into the school. However, after a while, nothing really useful happens, and the only thing Noor can do is cast a simple low heal spell, so he ends up getting kicked out of this school as well, with all of his dreams being crushed up in a millisecond. After he leaves, the Sovereign Six have a meeting and talk about how they're all massive idiots. Instead of shooing him away, they should have all gotten together and trained Noor. They agree that the dude is so unbelievably talented that it would be a waste to let such insane talents go unnoticed and untrained. However, they do find it pretty weird that he still hasn't been able to develop any meaningful skills, but they agree that they absolutely have to find him and bring him back to the capital to train him together. Noor finally snaps out of his flashback arc, goes into the completely broken guild, and starts helping the guild master clean up. He is happy that Noor is still alive because he still thinks that he is super weak. The guild master immediately gives him a new F-rank task to clean up all of the rubble, and Noor happily accepts because he apparently just loves doing the lowest tier tasks, because he still doesn't really regard himself as being strong. While this is happening, King Clays talks to his son Rain and tells him that a whole bunch of crazy crap is only about to start unraveling, given that the holy theocracy of Mithra has also shown its true colors. However, he is pretty happy that his kingdom has a bunch of truly good-hearted people who are ready to fight for the kingdom and for what is right. After working the entire night, Noor finds Lin in town while he is cleaning up the rubble, and she is handing out some nice bussin'-looking breadsticks. Noor is super hungry after working the entire night, and she gives him one of the breadsticks, which he finds insanely tasty. She leaves to hand some more of them out and leaves Noor to his boring rubble-carrying task. All of a sudden, while thinking about how epic his new sword is and how much more gutters he is going to be cleaning with it, Noor sees a bell tower starting to collapse on top of a random dude, and he immediately jumps up and parries it far away, saving the dude in an instant. This brings us to the end of Noor's insane rise from the useless farmer to the parrying powerhouse. Thanks for sticking around until the end, you absolute legend. Like, subscribe, and click on the screen to watch some of our other exciting videos. Until next time, stay awesome, stay AniGeek.